Arrogance is modern man's favorite sin. When we gaze upon our megalopolises and the networks encircling the globe, we are inhabited by a certainty that we embody the absolute zenith of existence. Academic institutions have instilled this dogma in us like a religious truth. Human history is a single arrow, a linear ascension starting from primitive mud and rising inevitably to the glory of our digital era. But this vision is an illusion. It is a house of cards that only stands because we ignore the trembling foundations. The truth is unnerving. We are suffering from collective amnesia. What if civilization is not a straight line, but a cycle? A wheel turning over eons, crushing and rebuilding empires. Imagine that beneath the Earth's crust, trapped in geological strata, sleep the debris of a prior humanity that mastered the atom and engineering long before us. Tonight, we break the silence. We will conduct a forensic examination of 7 anomalies that official science struggles to classify. Prepare yourself, for this file does not merely rewrite the past, it shatters the foundations of our reality. Our investigation begins with a physical impossibility, the conquest of the skies. Number 7. Pre-Columbian aerodynamics. The birth of aviation dates to 1903 with the Wright brothers. Before that, the sky was the domain of biology. However, artifacts at the Gold Museum suggest a troubling technological anteriority. These are gold pieces attributed to the Quimbaya cultures, dated to 1000 AD. Archaeologists classify them as zoomorphic representations, birds or insects. But to a modern eye, and specifically to an aeronautical engineer, this classification is a technical aberration. Nature does not endow any animal with delta wings. It does not create rectangular elevator surfaces. Critics argue these are artistic stylizations, but no insect has a vertical stabilizer. It is a feature exclusive to engineering. The proof lies in the tail. Birds stabilize their flight with feathers horizontally. However, these objects possess a vertical fin. In aerodynamics, this configuration serves only one function: to counteract yaw and stabilize high-speed flight. In 1994, experts Peter Belting and Konrad Lubbers built radio-controlled scale models of these jewels. The results stunned the community. The replicas flew perfectly, behaving like supersonic drones. These goldsmiths, 1,000 years ago, were not stylizing nature. They were documenting technology. They were not sculpting gods. They were reproducing flying machines. But if the mastery of the air was a reality, it required ground infrastructure. Aircraft need landmarks, runways, and support. This leads us to a major geographical anomaly. Number 6. The Geodesy of Nazca. The Nazca Plateau is world famous for its animal drawings, but these figures mask the site's real anomaly: the engineering of the terrain itself. The desert is scarred by thousands of straight lines, triangles, and trapezoids extending for miles, with a straightness that defies the curvature of the earth. The most disturbing aspect is not the drawing, but the earth moving. Some of these runways are not merely drawn, they are constructed. Hilltops have been decapitated, thousands of tons of rock moved to create flat platforms that traverse rugged terrain without deviating. These are not mere scratches, they are industrial-scale earthworks. Why? Why would a civilization described as primitive, possessing neither the wheel nor industrial tools, deploy a Titanesque effort to create vectors whose precision is verifiable only from the sky? The ritual explanation collapses in the face of the ballistic rigor of the layouts, which ignore obstacles with direct sight logic. Nazca is not a temple. It is a calibration and navigation complex for aerial technology. It is a beacon system for flying machines whose operating manual we have lost, etched forever into the Earth's crust. It suggests a global network of travel that required visual markers. However, to operate navigation systems over vast distances, visual observation is no longer sufficient. It requires advanced astronomical and mechanical calculation capabilities to determine longitude and latitude. A capacity we believed was born in the 20th century, until the sea surrendered a secret. Number 5. The Antikythera mechanism. In 1901, off Antikythera, divers recovered a Roman shipwreck containing a corroded bronze block. Modern scanning technologies revealed the truth. This was not art. It was a computer. The 2nd century BC Antikythera mechanism features 30 miniaturized bronze gears interlocking with clockwork precision. It could calculate celestial positions, predict eclipses to the hour, and model lunar cycles. It implies a knowledge of heliocentric movements not discovered until Copernicus. But the breakthrough lies in the use of a differential gear, a solution allowing the subtraction of 2 angular rotations. Officially, the differential was not invented until the 16th century. Between this ancient object and the first European astronomical clock, rivaling its complexity, there is an absolute technological void of 15 centuries. Such mastery does not arise from nothing. This artifact implies centuries of mathematical theorizing and prior prototyping. It is the orphan survivor of a major scientific tradition that sank into oblivion. If the Greeks possessed this technology, what did those who came before them possess? Now, if you possess aviation and computing power, then you possess the world. You can view it as a whole, to measure it, and to map it with divine precision. Number 4. The Impossible Map. In 1929, a map drawn on gazelle skin, dated 1513 and signed by Admiral Piri Reis, was discovered. The admiral compiled very ancient source maps, salvaged from the Library of Alexandria. The map shows the coasts of South America and Africa with staggering longitudinal precision, an accuracy unmatched for 3 centuries. The map also exhibits a projection method, equidistant projection, that requires spherical trigonometry, a branch of mathematics supposedly unknown at the time. But the real shock is at the bottom of the map. It depicts, with indisputable clarity, the coast of Queen Maud Land in Antarctica. Yet, Antarctica was not officially discovered until 1820. The mystery deepens. The map represents this coast free of ice. We see bays, rivers, and mountain ranges. Modern seismological surveys confirmed that the subglacial relief corresponds perfectly to Piri Reis's drawing. The last time this part of Antarctica was ice-free was at least 6,000 years ago. This implies a vertiginous conclusion. An unknown civilization mapped the entire globe, likely from the air, at a time when Europe was supposed to be plunged in the Stone Age. But a global civilization cannot function without fuel. This system would be inert without the most precious resource in the universe: energy. Number 3. The Light of the Pharaohs. Archaeology has already admitted Baghdad batteries, proving knowledge of ancient electrolysis. But it is in Egypt that the question of energy takes on an industrial dimension. Consider the hypogea of the Valley of the Kings, carved hundreds of meters under the mountain, in total darkness. Yet, the walls are covered with frescoes of surgical finesse. How did the artists see? The use of torches is ruled out, as they would have consumed the oxygen and left soot on the ceiling. Yet, these are immaculate. The theory of mirrors is impossible at this depth due to light loss. The answer is carved into the crypts of the Temple of Hathor at Dendera. The bas-reliefs show priests manipulating huge transparent tubes. Inside, a snake undulates, emerging from a lotus flower, the socket. The tube is supported by a jed pillar, which looks like a high-voltage insulator and connected by cables to a generator. This isn't religious symbolism. It is a schematic. For an engineer, the diagram is blindingly clear. It is a discharge lamp or a Crookes tube. They did not suffer the darkness. They tamed it technologically. And when a civilization masters energy, it inevitably applies this science to the preservation of life. Ancient medicine was not just prayers. Number 2. Surgical metallurgy museums in Peru preserve medical evidence that defies understanding. Skulls bearing the stigmas of massive trepanations repaired by metal plates. What astounds neurosurgeons is the success rate. Bone analysis shows perfect regeneration and fusion around the metal implant, proving the patient lived for years with this prosthesis. This implies overcoming 3 fatal barriers: asepsis to avoid infection, managing surgical shock without chemical anesthesia, and the biocompatibility of materials. To operate on the seat of consciousness without modern antibiotics is a death sentence in 99% of cases. Yet, they succeeded. If you implant a raw iron or copper plate directly onto the brain, oxidation causes immediate necrosis. These ancient surgeons used purified alloys, demonstrating a molecular understanding of materials comparable to our use of surgical titanium. They were not performing magic. They were practicing high-level medical science, manipulating the body with a confidence that modern medicine has only recently regained. Until now, we have examined technologies that remain within the realm of recent human history. But the final file shatters the scale of time. We are no longer talking about centuries. We are plunging into the vertigo of deep time. Number 1, Paleozoic industry. To understand this final point, we must recall what coal is: the fossil memory of the Earth. By absolute geological definition, any manufactured object found embedded inside an intact vein of coal is necessarily older than the formation of that rock. Scientific archives contain these impossible cases. The most documented occurs in 1912, in Oklahoma, when an iron cup fell from a broken block of coal, leaving its perfect negative imprint in the rock. This coal came from the Carboniferous period, a period dating back 300 million years. Let that number hit you. 300 million years. At that time, humanity was not even a concept. Dinosaurs themselves would not appear until much later. Earth was a world of swamps and giant insects. Yet, someone extracted this ore. Someone smelted this metal. Someone machined this shape with industrial intent. These objects force a terrifying conclusion upon us. Earth's history is cyclical. Global industrial civilizations emerged, prospered, built cities and machines, and then vanished completely. They were erased by cataclysms, ground to dust by tectonic plates, leaving only these tiny mineralized debris as the sole proof of their forgotten reign. The proof, though fragmented, is there. Mineral. Irrefutable. We are not the owners of this planet. We are temporary tenants on a world haunted by technological ghosts. We are like children finding a rusted watch in the sand, assuming it grew there because we cannot conceive of the watchmaker. History is not a closed book. It is a palimpsest of which we struggle to decipher the lower layers. Faced with this evidence, the silence of institutions is deafening. Why this refusal to admit anteriority? The answer is perhaps psychological. Acknowledging these predecessors means accepting our own obsolescence. It means breaking the myth of continuous progress. If technological titans reigned before being reduced to dust, then our destiny is not eternity. Look out the window. In 100 million years, perhaps all that will remain of our digital era is a thin layer of plastic and radioactive isotopes. Time is a ruthless cycle, and the wheel keeps turning. Which piece of evidence shattered your certainties the most? Tell me in the comments. To continue exploring the unexplained, subscribe. See you soon.